tense state of politics right now. We have Charlie Kirk, founder and president of Turning Point USA, and Candace Owens, Turning Point's communications director. They're in Washington to meet with the president. Welcome to you two. Can I just first ask, what is this event, and what are we going to be seeing the next couple of days here in D.C.?
You know, we had received so much interest over a period of time in this sort of youth Black conservative movement, and it felt like we really wanted to harness the power and the opportunity and invite everyone to D.C., first and foremost, to bring them to conservative ideas. A major hurdle that the Black community faces is not having the resources to get to different ideas and sort of being locked inside of a bubble. And having them listen to speakers that they perhaps haven't heard before, Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, people who are routinely mocked in our community. So this is the first ever opportunity to do that in D.C., and we're really excited that it's happening this weekend.
Charlie, what are you hoping that the president gets out of these interactions?
Well, I first want to take a step back and just give Candace Owens credit for changing the national conversation around these issues from a conservative kind of perspective over the last year. When I first met Candace, one of the first things she said is, she said, Charlie, I think we can have a young Black leadership summit that can be a lot bigger than any of the pundits or the consultants would ever dream. And I mean, tomorrow, 400 plus young Black leaders from across the country. That's an accomplishment that, especially of a conservative, tilt, if you will.
And the number could have been much higher.
And that's right. And so the number could have been higher, and it was the last minute influx of interest. I mean, we had probably 5x that in applicants and in inquiries. But what Candace Owens and our urban engagement director, Brandon Tatum, have done at Turning Point USA to really garner more interest amongst the Black community for conservative values, I think it's worth having the conversation, and it's something that, given all the recent news and attention around these issues, I think is something that will be quite interesting tomorrow.
Candace, there's obviously a bit of skepticism. As long as I've been in the game of conservative politics, as long as I've been a conservative, which is probably about sophomore year of high school, there have been conversations about how do conservatives win over more of the Black community. There have been some prominent leaders. You mentioned Dr. Ben Carson, others who have come forward and have tried to get this conversation going. What are you seeing that's different now, really? Like, why is it? I mean, to Charlie's point, he's saying that you've changed the conversation. How and why is the conversation different?
It's funny that you say that, because I was able to meet with Dr. Ben Carson early on this year, and we spoke about that. Like, what are the differences? Why are people paying a little more attention now? And I think that, and to his credit, in the past, the conversation was almost so intellectual that it was hard for people to digest and process and to understand. And because the left had won the culture war, it was easy for them to mock them, to see a skit where perhaps Dr. Ben Carson or Dr. Condoleezza Rice are being mocked. And I think I'm a little more of a fighter, definitely in terms of starting my channel on YouTube and wanting it to be colloquial and wanting it to feel familiar, like you were talking to your brother and sister, and sort of taking back some of the turf that was lost on the culture war by making fun of people on the left in the same way that they make fun of us. I think that sort of helped bridge the gap and make people more interested in having the discussion.
Does it bother you that there's no prominent African Americans in the White House itself? Do you think
sure
that's
there
important?
Is. Jaron, Dr. Ben Carson's part of the executive branch. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, within the White House
Jaron
itself,
is an executive with Jared Kushner.
What is his role?
He's a DAP, which is a Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States, which is a top tier. So that's not true.
Who are other individuals in the White House?
Well, I want to go back and answer your question. So, one thing that we always speak when we speak to conservatives about is we have to stop believing in this illusion that because somebody is Black, they represent my interests. We learned that lesson via Barack Obama. I mean, he was in the White House for 8 years and didn't do much for the Black community. So I'm not interested in the color of people's skin. So I'm interested in what they do and what they accomplish.
I'm really interested in your perspective here.
Yeah.
So to you, having you don't look at it is an administration that has more white men than past administrations have had.
Yeah,
but that doesn't bother you. You don't think that diversity is important?
No, not at all. I think that we have to stop believing that diversity is the color of people's skin, because if you have the Black Caucus, for example, which didn't stand up and applaud when Trump announced that we had the lowest ever unemployment in the Black community, that's concerning to me. So a big part of the conversation that we open is in making people understand that that's an illusion that the left has sold, that somehow because somebody matches my skin color, because somebody matches my gender, they have my best interests at heart, and that is completely fallacious.
I have to ask about Kanye, because you two have been seen, photographed with, spend time with Kanye. I got a tremendous, we have to speak about him on the show, got a tremendous amount of attention from the media from a recent meeting in the Oval Office. How does he factor? Look, I feel like conservatives play this game that we go back and forth. If anybody who's famous starts talking in any way that conservatives like, we embrace them right away, and then sometimes we feel like we get burned later. They're not as conservative as we thought. Kanye has such a huge megaphone. He's obviously somewhat of a controversial figure as well, based on what he said in the past. Charlie, just to start with you, I mean, how does he play into all this other than, I mean, I want to hear from both of you on this, but how does he play into all this other than just getting a lot of attention? You know what I mean? How is he changing the conversation?
I'll be the first one to admit, I mean, I was your typical macroeconomic loving kind of conservative individual that wasn't part of the culture that, you got
a Hayek paperback in your bag.
You understand what I mean?
Like
I became a conservative based on reading Free to Choose and Ludwig von Mises. And I think it's amazing that someone like Kanye West is broadening the conversation. And it was Candace that opened my eyes to this. And I wasn't that I was resistant, but I was like, really, Candace? Like, wait, what do you mean that we can? She said, no, you don't understand. From one of the first times I met Candace said, Charlie, Kanye West can change the national conversation around these issues, and I think that he's more of a Trump supporter than people gave credit. In fact, Candace is on record with our friend Dave Rubin saying this back in September of 2017, kind of predicting the Kanye movement, I guess you could say.
the Kanye movement.
Kanye movement, yeah.
I'm going to use that word, and I think that's true.
I've sort of followed Kanye's career for a very long time, so when I was asked that question of who I admire, I said Kanye West, because he's always been, long before Donald Trump came down the escalator, it was Kanye West that's been the battering ram against political correctness, and I knew that someone with his personality wasn't going to be able to exist comfortably on the left anymore, because we are now being told what to think, how we have to think, who we have to love, who we have to hate, and that's not comfortable for anybody that's an artist, and their stranglehold on culture is really what Kanye is sort of taking a stab at. Now, I want to be clear, based off of my conversations with him, he's not a Republican, and I think that that's an important thing to distinguish and to make clear, distinction to make, because in many ways I've said I'm not a Republican either, but he is a free thinker and he values ideas, and unfortunately, if you believe in the ability to think and to have a dialogue, that is a position that's on the right today.
So Candace, I do want to ask you about news of the day. Obviously, we have all these explosive devices that have been sent to prominent critics of this administration.
Right.
And in a tweet, you originally said you thought there was zero chance conservatives sent bombs. I think you took that tweet down.
Yeah.
But you later added, it isn't conservatives that are chasing people down in offices and restaurants. It isn't conservatives that have weaponized sexual assault as a means to political gain. I stand by my opinion that when it comes to political violence, the left is the likely culprit.
That's correct. So we've seen that.
So you think that it was the left or Democrats who sent
well,
these pipe bombs?
I think we're all entitled to have an opinion. We don't have any facts surrounding this, and Twitter is a venue where you're allowed to express your opinions and beliefs. And
but just to be clear, so that's not based on any facts. That's just your
Of course, it couldn't possibly be based on facts. We don't have any evidence other than the fact that they're investigating it. But
I'll come to Candace's.
I do want to finish this by just saying that it is my belief, when you take a look at the conversation, the things that have gone on and the increasing violence that's gone on, it has purely been a leftist tactic to stall things, delay the administration, and to fearmonger. So as a matter of opinion, I do believe that when we get to the resolution, the bottom of this, and we do have facts, we're going to see that this is orchestrated by the left, but by no means is that opinion rooted in any proof, because we don't have anything yet to go off of.
I could certainly point to Charlottesville. I could point to other acts that happen. I could point to Dylan Roof. I mean, there's certainly acts of violence that have come from the right.
But do you see how far back you have to go to do that?
Charlottesville?
Yeah, that's literally starting at the beginning of his administration. Look at all of the things that have gone on.
I don't want to have this debate, because ugliness can come from both sides.
No, I'm just saying that you brought it up.
But I do want to ask you, though.
I'm just answering the question.
I mean, you've got a big platform.
I do.
Right? And you have a powerful voice.
Thank you.
And kudos to you for creating that.
Thank you.
How do you view the responsibility that comes with that?
I view the responsibility of just being a person that maintains my ability to have an opinion, that I express an opinion, and no means that I say that I have just found the facts and this is related.
Yeah.
And I always reserve the right.
You said there's 0% chance.
Yeah. I said I'm going to go out and say that there is a 0% chance that this was sent by conservatives. I find all the things that are going on, the caravan of illegals, the packages that are being sent, Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation.
And just to clarify, you think the caravan too was organized by Democrats?
I find it to be incredibly suspicious timing to know that they are meant to get to the border on the day of the election. Again, this is not rooted in fact, but you do have to understand I am very much entitled to my opinion, and Twitter is my platform.
Candace, I have one more.
Just one more here, because I wanted to get to know you before you came on.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in your perspective, because
sure.
I think you're a fascinating person.
Thank you.
There was another tweet that said, the Democratic Party is comprised of racist white liberals.
That is correct.
Am I a racist white liberal?
Well, let's go back and let's say, I will say this, that many people in the party are not aware of their own racism. Let's go back to an early part of this conversation where you said to me, are you concerned about the color in the White House? Why would you ask me that question?
Because you speak about black issues.
No, but,
and I want
but
your
why
pers-
would you
because I
why
want
would
your
you ask me?
perspective
But
on
let's
it.
get to really the nucleus of this. Why did you ask me that question today?
Because I'm
Why did you feel that
interested
I
in your
needed to be
perspective.
concerned about that?
Because you're bringing a whole group of young African American leaders to the White House.
Okay, so this is something that I talk about often, is that in many ways white liberals don't realize that you put on that the racism and the conversations that we have.
So you're saying I'm a racist.
You haven't let me finish my statement. You keep cutting me off.
Go ahead.
Okay. The emphasis that you place is always on having a discussion about race. Okay. You guys are insistent on having a conversation about race and telling us that we should see and implying that we should see race everywhere, and I don't agree with that. If you don't look at me according to the color of my skin, you would simply ask me how I thought that Trump was doing as a president. But instead, you try to drum up a conversation that's surrounded by race
But
by
Candace,
asking me, are there enough black people in the
You're bringing a whole
White
group
House?
of young black leaders to
You
the White
see
House.
color,
so
I
clearly
don't.
that's something that's important to you.
But why are you talking
But
about?
then why make it that you're going to bring young black leaders to the White House? I mean, this is
Because
sort
you
of
say
absurd.
that-
because the media, as in the whole.
This is absurd. You're bringing this group to the White House.
It's not absurd. I'm making perfect
but
sense. You're just not following
I
the
just
logic.
want to be clear.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
I'm trying to be extremely
I
clear
know,
with you.
I know.
Bringing the black conservatives
but
to the White
you view
House.
me as a racist white
I think
liberal.
that you're not. First off, you put those words in my mouth, and you keep saying
No,
it.
you
So I'm not.
tweeted it.
I said that the Democrat Party is comprised of racist white liberals. Is every person in the party racist? No, but you're not aware of the fact that you put these racist tones out into the media. This is why we have to bring the black conservatives to the president, because you create a narrative when you're on TV like you did today.
Do you
Are
think
you
that-
comfortable
do you
with
think-
the
I'm
fact
going to have you on
that
radio later because I have questions for
administration-
I have questions for you as well. But we actually have to get out of the
Do
segment
you
now.
think that language is helpful, though? I mean, just in
I
terms
think
of the
that
national
well, I
conversation.
could
because
ask you, do you think
I
it's
have-
helpful to ask me just because I'm a black woman if I'm comfortable with the amount of color that's on the administration? Do you think that that's helpful?
I think it's helpful and interesting to know your perspective.
It's not. It's you just trying to
I'm
create
interested
an
in your perspective.
undertone that
You're
Donald Trump is
bringing-
racist, and it's
No,
wrong.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
But
That
listen,
to
but
me
Candace,
is the reason why.
Listen, no,
I
no,
just-
no, no, we
but
actually-
I just
we-
want to
It's
say.
time for
I
you
just want to
just-
say.
conservatives to speak
I just
out.
want to say.
You're looking at me on the
I
basis of
just
my
wanna
skin
say-
color and making a bunch of, and making
called
a
me
bunch
a
of
racist
deductions.
white liberal.
I
You
did
did
not.
not.
You
She did not
said
call
that,
you
and we
that.
can run the tape
But I
back.
want
call
to
you
say,
a
look,
racist
here's
white
what I want to
You,
say.
you quoted a tweet and then you made it about you.
I appreciate-
So you were
because
not
I'm a
added,
Democrat.
but you were not added in that tweet. So do not say
I'm
that
a
I called you
Democrat.
that, because that's
When you say the
dishonest.
party
And we
is
are on,
comprised of
and we
racist
are,
white
and we are on
liberals,
TV. So you
you're
can
calling
run.
me a racist.
Okay, so
She did not call
I
you
did
a
not call you a
racist.
racist.
Okay.
You're using the typical
we have-
leftist tactic
Here's
of trying
what
to make
but
yourself a
here's
victim,
what I want to say.
which is not
Here-
something that I would
hold
like
on,
to
hold
do.
on, hold on.
No, but we're
I do
actually
wanna
actually
say-
well beyond
I
time.
want
Well,
to
she's
say
making herself
that
a
I think
victim and
it's
pretending that I
important-
came here and called her a
I think it's
racist. So
important
this is a
that
typical
we
leftist
not-
tactic.
That we not demonize our opponents.
And I think it's important that
Hold
you
on,
not
hold on,
demonize
hold
my
on.
president.
And one thing that I try very hard to do is to criticize the policies and criticize people who are in positions of
And
power.
I'm not sure how you
but
were doing
not-
that by pointing out
but
the color
not-
in the administration.
But not to criticize the people who support the
You
president.
literally spoke
That's
about
something I
skin
try
color,
very hard to do.
but you're not doing a very
and
good job of
I think
it.
it's really important.
I think it's really important that you be aware that just because I'm a black woman, you don't need to ask me a question as basic enough as saying how much color is in the administration.
To demonize our fellow
I
Americans?
think what's problematic is that you are creating a simulation that is dishonest, that is accusing our president of being racist based off of
I
the
didn't
color of the
say
people that
that.
are in the. That's exactly
didn't
what you
say
asked
that.
me a question.
All
That's
right.
what you implied.
Okay, I actually really appreciate you two coming in very much,
Thank
and I look
you.
forward to getting to
Thanks,
ask you
guys.
some questions of my own at some point later on, and we're going to have to end the segment there. But thank you, and good luck at the White House today, and thank you for bringing young African American leaders into D.C.